Good morning and welcome to the programme. We have a full programme this morning. 083 333 975, text or WhatsApp. A lot of things you may want to text in about. You can also call Audrey on 051 846 123. I'm going to go straight to Conor McGuinness of Sinn Féin. Conor, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you? It's a very cool 9 degrees to Shanna football.
That's it. I know you're in you've stopped the car for us. The signal may not be great, so we won't keep you too long. We're just going to talk very briefly, Conor. You're one of the main people involved in the negotiations currently to agree a budget in Waterford Council to cover the city and county. Negotiations ongoing, and the big meeting is on at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Conor, where are we?
Well, we're looking at a budget meeting tomorrow that probably isn't going to go the way that the government would like it to go. The chief executive will present a budget tomorrow that includes rate increases and cuts, and this is due to I suppose the issue that an awful lot of listeners will be aware of, that the Waterford City and County Council is being gifted a €14.5 million cut over the lifetime of the council. It's actually a €16.5 million cut, and as we know, the government this week announced or confirmed that they'll be giving a €2 million one-off grant, which I suppose brings it down to a net €14.5 million cut over the next 5 years. So there's a budget will be proposed by the chief executive tomorrow. WLR already covered that it'll include 5% rates increase, which will undoubtedly, if we were to get across the line, affect small and medium enterprises in Waterford City and County and have a knock-on effect on employment. And that's not something that Sinn Féin are in favour of. It's not what Sinn Féin councillors are elected to do.
I know it's something that you're not in favour of, Councillor McGuinness. At the same time, you are now in a position of power on the in the council, and for many years, a lot of the councillors have obviously been giving out about how budgets have been framed and stuff like that. Is it a case now of maybe in some way eating humble pie?
I don't think so. I think that the government created this mess. They have created this situation, and it's an accountancy decision in reality made by politicians, and it results in the total amount of rates payable by Irish Water being divided differently, so that Waterford is disproportionately affected and is down 3.3 million each year. In perpetuity, effectively, we're looking at €33 million being taken out of Waterford City and Council over this decade. We're looking at and a €2 million grant offered by government is small.
Okay.
It's very small, it's weak and inadequate. And I just have to question...
Well, I'm just going to stop you there for a minute, Councillor McGuinness. Again, you've said that already, so again, I'm going to be quite specific on this. You're now in a position of power within the council, and a budget has to be agreed upon, or you could face the consequences of the council being disbanded, in the sense that the government would take over. Now, is it not your responsibility as the lead group within the lead, I suppose, collection of councillors, that you actually organise something to frame some kind of a budget, if that does mean some hardship for some people along the line?
As you said in your opening piece there, Damien, that there's negotiation ongoing, and that includes the government, that includes the Department of Local Government, who have made an opening offer, as I would see it, of a €2 million grant. Now, it's anybody who has any political savvy or political acumen, anybody who's in business and understands how negotiations work, realises the back and forth. Now, the council, as a corporate body made up of 32 councillors from all parties and none, wrote to the government, sought a meeting, and let them know in no uncertain terms that it would be extremely difficult to pass a budget with the level of cut that the government were imposing on us. Now, they came back, to be fair, late in the day, but they came back. They still haven't offered to meet. We haven't met with the minister yet. And I think it would be imprudent, unwise and naive to pass a budget tomorrow evening that would include cuts and rates increases when this process has still not run its course.
Okay.
When we still haven't had an opportunity as a council of all parties to meet a delegation, of cross-party delegation, to meet with the minister. And that's what we want. That's what we want to see. We want to see a meeting take place with the minister. We want to push this to its...
I understand, and you've said that twice. Very specifically, have you a counter-alternative budget to propose? Like, you're the controlling party of the alliance. Have you a counter-alternative budget to propose?
Well, we don't have a budget that includes the cuts that government are imposing on us now.
Okay, have you any budget, have you any counter budget ready to go in terms of this is what ye believe is required or this is what ye want?
We have our priorities. We're discussing those with other parties. At the moment, to be honest, in a very fluid situation when we still want to sit down with the Minister, who hasn't granted our request for a meeting yet. We want to sit down with the Minister, hammer this out, and we don't accept that we should be cutting 2 million out of the budget.
I understand.
So it would be an academic exercise at this stage to put together a budget without knowing full facts and without having that crucial...
The government... And looking at this, Councillor McGuinness, the government has said that the 2 million is their final contribution. They've said they've confirmed it's a final amount. There's no negotiations. They're saying that's it. Get on with it. They're saying formulate a budget. So are you saying you have obviously your priorities, but do you have an alternative budget ready to present to councillors tomorrow?
That includes government cuts and rates increases? We do not. Absolutely not. That's not what we're elected to do.
You're elected to run the council.
We're elected to represent our constituents.
And if that leads to a breakdown and possible disbandment of the council, will you be able to defend that?
Well, let's be very clear. There's a process at play here. We have a meeting tomorrow. There's 14 days thereafter to work out the nuts and bolts. And we're engaged in a negotiation, and we would like to be engaged with a negotiation with government. And they have an obligation as well, Damien. Let's not forget that the national government has an obligation as well to come back to us and to meet us. They haven't done that yet. They've offered what I would say is a very weak and inadequate response to a mess that they've created. €2 million when we're looking at a €16.5 million cut at their behest over the next 5 years, over the lifetime of this council. Okay. They have an obligation to come and meet us, to explain their rationale and to try and work out a reaction. People, like I said, people who've been in business, people who are involved in politics know that negotiation isn't done in one go. It isn't done in one set of communication. The Minister very, very recently actually wrote to us, having had Deputy Halligan and Councillor Cummins announce the 2 million. And it seems to me just politically naive, if I might say it, to run up the white flag and say, OK, lads, that's all we're getting. This is the 2 million. We better just take it now and put up and shut up. And that's it. Well, stop. That seems to me to be a very naive way to do this.
I can see where you're coming from, and you're accusing your opponents of being politically naive. Some people would say that you're being politically naive by going down this route because the government is saying the 2 million is the final amount. Can I ask you one final question, Councillor McGuinness?
But I'll just respond to that if I might. I mean, they're telling us, yes, they told us in a letter that was circulated to councillors on Wednesday, that we're getting 2 million and that's that. But I mean, we haven't sat down with the Minister. A cross-party delegation has not yet sat down with the Minister. That's what we need to do. We need to hammer this out. And I think if we were to take the first response from the department, offering 2 million as is, and just as a full stop and then getting on with our business, I think that would be extremely naive and a very bad way to do politics.
And finally, one of the other things, we've got Sean Reinhardt in here in the studio. We're going to Jason Murphy on the line in a second. There's an issue that's come up just yesterday, about councillors' pay with John Paul Phelan, the Minister of State. This is what he had to say in the Dáil yesterday.
I have discussed it with the Minister for Finance, and both are committed and share with me the view that councillors shouldn't be the worst paid people in the room when it comes to local authority staff. And that is the current position. Essentially, councillors work for the minimum wage, or even slightly under it in some cases.
I know it's early days yet, and we haven't time to go into this fully with yourself, Councillor McGuinness. What do you think of this idea of councillors getting a pay rise?
There's been a report commissioned by government, the Moorhead report into remuneration for councillors. It hasn't been published yet. Sinn Féin made a very comprehensive submission on it. We spoke about differentiating between part-time councillors and full-time councillors. And there's many councillors, small parties and none, who work extremely hard full-time at the job. And there's others who work full-time in another job, and the council is a part-time matter to them. And we need to be realistic about how we go about doing it. I'll reserve judgment, to be honest, until the report is published. I think it's due out next week. But it is an issue that has to be looked at. It has to be looked at in the round as part of local government reform, of giving more power to local authorities and looking at public pay restoration and public pay deals as well. So okay. I'll reserve judgment, to be honest, until I see the report next week and hear the Minister's comments thereon.
Councillor McGuinness, we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Damien. Take care.
Thanks very much, Councillor Conor McGuinness there from Sinn Féin. Sean Reinhardt, good morning.
How are you doing, Damien? Good to see you.
And good to see you too. How are you?
Oh, good. Thanks very much.
Yeah. How many months now since the election? 6 months, is it?
About 6 months, yeah, mate.
And how's life been since you're no longer a councillor?
Yeah, I have no complaints. The freedom's lovely.
What you heard about Councillor McGuinness, you've been involved in council negotiations and stuff like that before, budget negotiations. What do you think, as somebody looking in from the outside now, this brinkmanship, some people would say, that's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a road that you do have to play that ball. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that's all part of the game. And
but it's more than a game, I suppose.
I know, but they do have to take every opportunity that they can, the entire council, and find out like what is the maximum that the minister is going to concede. I don't know if it's going to be 2 million.
Yeah, he said that's what it's going to be, and if it comes off, there's going to be a 1 million plus rates increase per annum going forward. Like maybe we're looking at a situation where there isn't room for negotiations.
Yeah, well, see, Damien, the fact is, at the end of the day, no matter what agreement is come to or what decision is made, the people of Waterford are going to end up paying, because if rates go up. The businesses community will have to pay that, and they're going to pass it on to the consumer. It's as simple as that. The people of Waterford are going to end up paying one way or the other.
What do you think about councillors' pay? How was your pay when you were a councillor? How much did you get paid?
Pay was lousy. It was 17,000 a year, and then you had a few bob extra in expenses.
I think it's 5,000 in unvouched expenses?
Probably around that, yeah.
So 22,000 approximately.
A bit less, actually.
A bit less, okay. 21,000,
yeah.
okay. So 17,000, and you've been on this programme before. We've been talking about the amount of work that you had to do and all that sort of stuff. So, and you were a full-time councillor, were you?
Yeah.
And in terms of the pay, do you think councillors should get a pay rise?
Without a doubt, yeah. It's not something that you're going to have the public dancing on the streets calling for. But councillors... they're definitely underpaid. The expenses that councillors do receive, they're spent on travel to and from Dungarvan if you're a city councillor, and vice versa if you're a city from the county, you're having to travel in here. You have to meet constituents from all over the place. Particularly a rural councillor will have a lot more travel, because in 2014, prior to the 2014 election, we had over 1,600 councillors, and that was culled down to, I think it's 950, 949.
That's right, yeah.
And geographical areas spread as well, in particular for rural councillors. They got an awful lot bigger, and if you have to meet people on a one-to-one basis, they want to build up rapport with you, you're going to have to travel to meet them, and it all costs money.
Should that money come from central government? Should it come from local finances? It can't come from local finances, I suppose.
No, I think it should come from central government. I mean, we're all taxed at source, and I think everything should be funded from the centre. Should
you get rid of unvouched expenses? So, for example, they're talking about possibly bringing in like an 8,000, what the headline figure says is around an €8,000 increase. But if you take away the 4,500, 5,000 of unvouched expenses, it might only work out at approximately 3,000 of an increase.
Yeah, there's also an opportunity there for councillors to have a vouched expense of €5,000 a year. And I don't know of any councillor who's ever taken that up. You have to produce a receipt for €5,000 worth of goods that you've purchased, or for printing or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to pay that in advance. And somebody who's on 20 grand a year doesn't have 5 grand sitting in a bank ready to spend on.
Some of them probably, there might be a few that might, like the recent figures that came out in the summer about councillors' payments or expenses. There was quite a lot that got quite a bit of money, I'm not going to go through it now, but there's a disparity between with some councillors, maybe, no? Yeah,
well, I mean, there was a point made earlier there, the difference between a part-time councillor and a full-time councillor. It depends on your circumstance and how you sit in the council. I mean, you could be a member of a party, and you could lay some of your work off on a TD secretary, for instance, to try and alleviate your workload, and you have a different way of spreading your costs. And it's different for each councillor, I suppose. But there is definitely a big difference between a part-time and a full-time councillor.
Is there life after being a councillor?
Well, there certainly is. Now, the phone doesn't stop, Damien.
Are they still ringing you?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
6 months afterwards?
Yeah.
Looking for a house?
Yeah, and that doesn't change. And I was told by the council as well that I've made me contacts, and if I want to continue to use them, to do so, and I do. It's just you can't turn people away, and in fairness, people build up a rapport with you, and they want to keep dealing with you, and they don't like to deal with somebody else. So
you might run again, will you?
Yeah, look, I don't know right now, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm happy to help people if they do knock on the door.
Sean, it's lovely to see you. You're looking great, and thanks very much for coming into us this morning.
Thanks
really
very
appreciate
much
it.
Thank you.
Coming up, the big issue, the thorny issue of Christmas trees. Now, welcome back to the programme. A little technical glitch there earlier. Aidan Maguire, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us.
No problem. My pleasure.
Appreciate you coming in to us. You got a call this morning from Julie, and it's lovely to see you. Old Farm Christmas trees. Tell us about Old Farm.
That's right. Yeah. I sold my very first tree when I was a young lad in 1978. I got an idea to sell a few Christmas trees, and I sold them down Spencer's Yard in Johnstown. Of course, back then they were all sheddable, Norway spruce, and when you bring them into the house after the first half an hour, once they get a bit of heat and they dry out, the whole lot would be shed on the floor.
Yeah.
And so you'd be sweeping and hoovering for the whole of Christmas. And probably the New Year as well, trying to get the bits out of the carpet.
Yeah.
But it's a different ball game altogether now with the Noble Fir and the Nordmans, which don't shed. So, I mean, people can put them up now in the end of November. Whereas back then, you'd sell most of your trees actually on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't sell one on Christmas Eve these days.
Yeah. And they're still as natural as they were. Like, the fact that they don't shed for a month, that doesn't mean them less natural or anything, does it? No, it's just...
They're just a different variety there.
Yeah.
Noble Fir are the best. They're just... They're a fir, whereas the other ones were spruce.
Yeah.
And the Noble Fir just hold on to their needles. Even when you throw them out after Christmas and they wither in the month of March, you'll still see them. They'll still have their needles.
And the hassle of getting rid of the tree afterwards. What about this idea, the green, I suppose, thing we're going now, and people saying, no, you should have an artificial tree. It's not...
I wouldn't agree with that at all now. I mean, we're all concerned about the plastics. Sure, I mean, an artificial tree is completely made of plastics and it's from the petrochemical industry and made in China. So
yeah.
All you're doing is supporting the Chinese economy. Whereas if you buy a real tree, well, you're supporting the farmers who grow them, and they replant them as they cut them, they replant new ones, and they let some of them on to grow into bigger trees, and some of them might be 30 years old before they're cut. The ones for shopping centres and they come out of the same field, but they're just allowed to grow longer.
What about the reports regarding the weather and the fact that the milder winters and the wetter winters make it more difficult for growing trees?
Definitely the weather. The wet weather is a terrible it's a logistical nightmare for us, because, as you can imagine, like, we're working on, these trees don't grow on flat ground. They grow on the sides of hills, and we're in there with tractors and trying to get them out there, and all you're doing is making mud and getting bogged down, and trying to keep the trees clean is an awful problem. I mean, nobody wants a load of mud coming into their house on a tree.
No.
So I mean, we have to keep these trees clean.
And do you literally wash them down maybe beforehand? Sometimes no, you wouldn't.
We have gear set up on the back of the tractor where we net them. As soon as they're cut, they're put straight into the net, and they're put up onto a palleting machine, which is a machine that packs them onto a pallet. It's like a baler for all the world. So,
is there much, maybe you can't reveal this, but is there much money made on each tree? I know you have to invest in wages, and you're not busy the whole year round, but you're doing other jobs. But like, in terms of, like, say, 40, 50 euro worth of a tree,
Yeah. Well, sure, like...
you don't want to say.
It's a difficult question because you have to take it like that. It's in the ground there for 10 years.
Of course.
You know, so...
in terms of the profit on each tree, you have to work all that into the costs.
Yeah, it's difficult to quantify it, really. I couldn't put a percentage on it, really.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
What about people robbing trees?
Well, sure, it's a big problem, but not so much around here now. Robbing from the forestry, the County Wicklow now, and it's a massive problem.
Do you ever get anybody coming in maybe trying to rob the odd tree as opposed to...
Actually, you would, yeah.
Would you?
You would, yeah.
Did you ever catch anybody?
Somebody with the Bushman. Sorry, I hunted them off, let's say, but I never actually caught anybody. We put a run on them.
Talk me through it. Was it night time?
Oh, in the night time, yeah. They come in with a Bushman and...
what's a Bushman? A big saw?
It's the old-fashioned bow type of saw. Yeah.
A couple of people, was it? Or?
Yeah. But they weren't a professional organisation like it.
And how did you know they were there?
Well, the man who works with me, Rory Brown, there, we grow our trees in Graignamanagh.
Yeah.
Looking over at St Mullins, a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah.
And he lives right beside.
He saw the lights, the car, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Went down and hunted them.
There, yeah.
And they ran.
He gave me a ring. I got in my car and I drove down and we put a run on them.
Did they scarp her? They did?
They did, yeah.
And they never came back?
And they left the tree behind them.
They must have been desperate.
Yeah.
Listen, is it as busy as ever? Do you see a fall off in people looking for trees? Or
there's no doubt about it that the artificial tree has gained a sort of a foothold in the market.
But you can't beat the smell of a real tree.
No, yeah. I mean, it creates a lovely atmosphere in the home because the smell goes right through the house, and you know it's Christmas when you get that aroma.
I only found out yesterday they do these false scents, the incense things, the smell of a real tree. You put it on an artificial tree.
Yeah. From China as well, and God knows what's in it. So.
Listen, Aidan, happy Christmas.
Thank you, Damien.
Continued success.
And happy returns.
And do you think that the helicopter, the Garda helicopter, should be out looking at keeping an eye on these trees up in Wicklow?
Maybe in the County Wicklow, yeah.
It's a lot of expense, though, isn't it? Imagine sending the chopper up to...
Yeah. But sure. I suppose that's what the Gardaí are there for, to enforce the law, aren't they?
Yeah, but if somebody's going to go in and take a load of trees, they're obviously very professional, you know. But somebody going in to rob one tree is just somebody looking for a tree, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Like it is a huge problem in the County Wicklow. It's because it's got such a close proximity to Dublin, I suppose, and you can find a big market there in Dublin, and you know.
Yeah.
But we don't have that problem here now. Our trees are growing close enough to the main road there, so they're not so isolated.
Yeah.
These guys be looking for very isolated locations where they can...
Yeah, and in Wicklow there are lots of isolated areas, I know very well.
And they can spend the night there cutting and loading. And
Aidan Maguire, Old Farm Christmas Trees, thanks very much.
Thank you, Damien.
Fair play to you, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Now, welcome back to the programme. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Michael Cummins, thanks for joining us. Roisin, good morning.
Good morning, Mum.
Roisin Ferris of this parish.
Of this parish.
Good to talk to you.
Local parish.
Michael, what's your position within the St Vincent de Paul?
I'm the Waterford area president of St Vincent de Paul.
And explain to people what St Vincent de Paul is, anybody who doesn't know. I know it sounds like a silly question, but...
Yeah, well, I suppose here in the city, it's quite a large area, and I think people very much associate St Vincent de Paul with home visitation, which is our core business, our main business. And here in the city we have 13 conferences, 13 home visitation conferences, who week in, week out are visiting people, assisting. And in this day and age, I suppose it's quite unique to be invited into so many homes on a weekly basis. And as I say, here in Waterford, I suppose we have several other conferences dealing. We have a childcare centre conference dealing with that. We have an education conference, which is very important. We have a new conference set up this year, St Christopher's, which we have set up a St Vincent de Paul men's shed. So,
and I was down there having a look at it, and we're going to be doing a special piece with St Vincent de Paul in 2 weeks' time, I think it is.
Yeah.
A special outside broadcast. We look forward to that.
Yeah.
Because when people hear the word conference, it's hard to understand what it means. But like the childcare facilities there that are up in Ballybricken, the men's shed, the work that's done with the shops, it's amazing. Like, Roisin, there's a lot of people out there that still don't know what exactly goes on. As Michael says, they just have some image of what it might be.
Exactly. I think prior to my involvement with the Christmas appeal, my knowledge of the St Vincent de Paul, I suppose, was limited. And, as Michael said, the visitations thing is something that you associate it with, but it's so much more than that. They do so much to kind of break the poverty cycle with a lot of people within the community. And these aren't people that are obviously the homeless on the street. They are assisted, but there's also, neighbours and friends of ours that are living in our community that just need, an ease up every now and again to get them past a bad stage in life financially. And remarkable the amount of people then that you come across that have been recipients and now in turn are trying to give back through thankfully assisting us in the appeal and stuff like that. So it's an amazing charity and just great to be involved with them.
How long is the appeal going in connection with WLR? It's going on quite a few years.
2016, so this is our fourth year.
This is with SVP.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's our fourth year. Yeah.
And have you found it beneficial, Michael, in that sense?
It's been absolutely. I mean, obviously from the financial point of view, it's been wonderful for us. Like I said, our core business would be home visitation, and taking last year from 2017 to 2018, our income was up 4%, but our expenditure was up 36%.
Wow.
So we, as I say, home visitation is so important. But with the WLR SVP appeal, it has actually opened up a whole new gateway for us that we have been able to, with the money which has been raised with the appeal. I mean, between the city, my area and the county, it was €83,000 was raised last year, which was remarkable. And the money which came into our area, I'm delighted to say that, even last weekend, a new floor was put into part of the childcare when you were up there. Do you remember we were
Excellent.
talking?
That went in
so
last
it went
weekend,
down last weekend.
Super.
And that was part funded with the money which was raised in the Christmas appeal. We have been able to put, this year, there's 218 people were assisted in education, and again the money from the appeal went towards that.
Some people would ask, you obviously have a lot of experience in terms of who you give the money to. You want to make sure it gets to the right people. Like, you might hear some people, a texter just rang in to say, how do you actually do the checks on people to make sure it goes to the right people? Because you only have a certain amount of money.
Absolutely. And I visit conferences, and I would have to, hand on heart, say that I've yet to see money that conferences are so aware of the generosity and the goodwill that our donors have expressed. And we have an obligation to try to ensure that money is distributed as our donors would like. We don't know, people don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Circumstances, each case is unique, and really you don't know what circumstances are.
What sort of events are coming up, Roisin? We've obviously had a quiz there one night. Got a good thing. There's lots of different things happening. There's a marvellous amount of stuff happening. Yeah, well, that was kind of, I suppose, that kick-started it off for us there in the Cove. But we have so many events. I mean, I can't go through them all, but I suppose our flagship events really are the kind of Wear Red, our Red to Work Day, which is one of the big ones that we organise here in WLR. So that's on Friday the 13th. So we're just asking for the support of all the businesses locally to sign up through our website.
and take part in that, where people just wear red to work or wear your Christmas jumper and donate on the day to the Christmas appeal. We also have like our Farm View auction out in West Waterford with Kieran O'Connor, Fireman Collection, our Santa Run with the Winter League. We have a Christmas concert down in Dungarvan next week, as well as a lovely school Christmas concert here in St. John's Church on Tuesday night. So lots of events raised, and I suppose many of them are ones that we get involved with ourselves, but there's also some people out in the community that are amazing and organise events. For example, we have Mark White out in Tremor this weekend doing his 24-hour boot camp. He's pushing it. He's sending me texts every day with updates. He's amazing.
It is amazing what he's doing, yeah.
And of course Gary Walsh out in Waterford Warriors, who's on his third year now, putting so much effort, and he's such a busy person. But he has.
You're laughing there, Michael. Yeah,
I was down doing my role this morning.
The energy out there it's actually surreal. It's amazing because he has 10 machines with 24 hours. He's got I think 270 people or something involved in that. It's amazing. So just big thanks to people here that are willing to put in time and take organise events themselves. Another thing I just wanted to give a quick mention to: Malloy's down in Arkeen rang me yesterday. They're sick of Black Friday. He wants to do some kind of feel-good alternative. So he's all his 10% of all his sales on Friday are going to the Christmas appeal. That's Malloy's in Arkeen. So I thought that was a really lovely gesture.
It's a really nice thing, yeah. And I know, Michael, you want to thank everybody that's getting involved.
I do indeed. The easy thing I think for people to do is to do nothing, and we really are appreciative. The goodwill, obviously this time of year for St. Vincent de Paul is extremely busy, but each year the generosity of the people of Waterford is just amazing. And if I could just take this opportunity to acknowledge and to thank most sincerely the work which Roisin puts in, year out. It's just been amazing in a most calm manner. She has managed to keep organisation in the chaos of Christmas, and it's been a privilege to work with her.
And she's
over
getting
the last few years. She's been wonderful.
I'll second that. Listen, we're going to be doing a lot more of this over the next few weeks. We'll do the live OB and we'll come back to you. Michael, thanks very much for calling.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you.
Thanks, Roisin, for calling into us.
Damien, yeah,
and we'll be plugging the events as they happen, and continued success. And everybody that's out there, thank you very much for helping.
Thank you. Thanks so
and
much.
Here, leading into these little series of messages, we have a special message regarding the Christmas appeal. Now, a lot of people texting in 083 3333 975. Councillor Donald Barry has texted in to say, well done to all the members of the local St. Vincent de Paul conferences. On a near weekly basis, I have to refer people to them without question. They do excellent work, says Councillor Donald Barry, and others are texting in. Now, it's going to be mandatory possibly for dog owners to carry a litter bag when they're out with their pets in public. We're going to be talking to one of the TDs who's proposing this new bill. Firstly, we have Peter Doyle, former editor of the Waterford News and Star, who's campaigned on this issue. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for joining us. I know you're a busy bookle. I won't keep you very long. There's reports in the paper, Peter, that it's going to be mandatory for dog owners to carry a litter bag when out with their pets in public. It's a new bill introduced in the Dáil yesterday, if it's passed. I know you've been campaigning quite vociferously in Waterford on the issue of pollution and owners. What do you think? Do you think that this might help? It says the legislation is aimed at a small minority of dog owners who simply do not give a damn what their dog does and have no real fear of being caught under current legislation.
Damien, all I can say is hooray, hooray, long overdue. I don't want to be getting at decent dog owners or responsible dog owners who take that responsibility serious, but unfortunately there's still so many, I would say a high percentage of dog owners who fail to pick up dog poo. I've had an incident. I was out clearing leaves to my house, the front of my house yesterday, 2 lumps of dog poo under the leaves. I mean, I was on your programme a few months ago, and I know you got a great reaction, but for a time there was a noticeable improvement. And in fairness, a lot of people do carry bags, but unfortunately there's people walking along popular walks, even around schools, Damien, since the schools came back in September. I say you walk around schools, you find it. no matter where you go. I just can't understand it. I just can't understand the mentality of people that won't pick up their dog poo. A lot of these people think the world of their dogs, and they're used to them. A dog can be a great companion. I said it before. My mother had a poodle for 16 years, and it was a great companion for him. But if you're gonna, with that dog ownership comes the responsibility to look after your dog, and not to impose your dog on other people. And as I say, I've had grandchildren that have come into me, having walked around the block, their shoes soiled with dog poo. There's nothing as bad, the smell, the having to go and clean it up. But yet, some dog owners, and I stress some, just don't give a damn. So if there's a law coming in, Damien, I would wholeheartedly welcome it. And I have to say, I got a huge reaction, having been on the programme, from people, even dog owners, that feel very aggrieved that other dog owners are giving them a bad name because they won't pick up their dog poo. So the sooner that law comes in, the better. I know for a fact there's people will be walking dogs this morning and they won't think of bringing a bag. Then, as I say, you have the other side of it, where some people, a minority, will pick up the dog poo and at the first available chance will dump the dog poo in a ditch on the way. So, I'm thrilled. You've given me a nice bit of news this morning because
it's the first you've heard of it. Yeah, like the bill, it's been brought in. We're going to be talking to Kathleen Funchion later. It's been brought in by Sean Crowe and Kathleen Funchion. Whether it gets the go ahead or not now, and all party support, but it's also going to make it easier to impose fines on irresponsible dog owners. And there's also a call for more bins for dog litter. And all those things.
There's definitely a shortage of bins and a shortage of notices. Certainly in and around the city, there's a shortage of notices. And if you don't have the bins, there's no kind of incentive for people to pick it up. They don't like carrying it around. Although, in fairness, again, I've seen a lot of people carrying the dog poo bags. But I would love to see this Waterford Council more proactive in dealing with this. I wish they were taking it a little bit more serious. I mean, people that are concerned about dog poo have a situation where if they ask somebody politely, will they pick it up? They're abused. I can give you those examples, get a life, and other expletives, bad expletives, into the bargain, Damien. But as I say, maybe this might make them think twice.
Yeah, there has to be. I know you have to go soon, so we won't keep you long. There has to be a culture change on this, Peter, because there was a time where people would throw rubbish out their car window, or drive without a seatbelt. And in terms of health matters, there has to be a cultural shift in this, doesn't there?
Yeah, but it happened with litter going out of car windows, which was a regular occurrence. I don't know, many years back, but that's virtually stopped now, So there was a culture change with that, and hopefully the message will get through that there has to be a culture change. And I would appeal to dog owners to make sure that they carry a dog poo bag when they're bringing their dog out. And if they're not doing so, I'd say, look, examine your conscience, think about it, because you're imposing the excrement from your dog on other people, and I don't think that's fair, Damien.
Peter Doyle, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Damien.
Thank you very much, Peter, and we'll be doing more on that after the news. People texting in, Damien, a law is only as good as it's enforced. I can't see busy Gardaí following up on this law, says Jimmy. Let us know what you think. 083 3333 975.